This time on Cryptid Cryptids, my trip to the Western Science Center Museum in the Valley of the Mastodons in Hemet, California. Hi, I'm Jenna Bosiger, and thank you for watching, subscribing, and liking. I really do appreciate it. It is an amazing museum, and I highly recommend it, and I would like to go back again. I went with my mom and my mother-in-law, and we had a really great time. As the museum shows, time goes by incredibly fast, and I was also very appreciative for the time we spent together, focused on that over wishing for things that I can't have. One of the first things I saw in the museum were these life-size sliders that showed where Hemet is over the millions of years. And I was surprised to learn that Hemet was underwater for a long time, and during the time of these dinosaurs, it was a tropical marshy land with a lot of these animals and dinosaurs roaming around the area. And as the story goes, when they were building and constructing Diamond Lake, they kept finding dinosaur bones, so many in fact that they just built the museum right there next to Diamond Lake, where they continue to dig around and keep finding things to this day. One of the most fascinating things that I learned was that some of these bones were found 64 feet underground. And so I understand this was an incredibly long time ago, but 64 feet of dust and debris piled up on top of these dinosaurs, or 64 feet of mud, liquid mud that hardened and buried them alive in some natural disaster on a mega scale, like earthquakes or some kind of nearby comet strike. Is that what killed them, being buried? Or I don't remember them mentioning how they were killed. But they also had this very realistic life-size head of, they call it a Dynamo Terror. And it was the largest meat-eating dinosaur in this forest, not a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but an earlier, smaller cousin. I found that interesting because I remember hearing that long before there were saber-toothed tigers in the La Brea tar pits, there were saber-toothed cats in Hemet, which are also smaller, earlier versions. And I was able to see both saber-toothed cat and tiger skulls, and it is unbelievable that something with fangs that big. But the main attraction to the museum are the mastodons and all of the mastodon skulls, because they found so many and they were in such good condition. One thing that I was really surprised by is I did not know that they were going to be bigger than just the skulls. I did not really have that perspective in mind until I saw them in person. And there was something about them that, without the tusks in them, looked kind of human. And then there was the giant sloth. And this creature was massive. And even though it walked slower than some of the other animals of that time, I did a little side trip here from livescience.com, Ice Age Children Splash Sloth Footprints. It says that the average human stride, according to Reynolds and her colleagues, is about 0.6 meters, but a giant sloth's stride was anywhere from 0.8 to 1.1 meter. And this was coming from people who researched the giant sloth prints in white sands, because they found human prints with the giant sloth prints. A lot of the research says that these human footprints were like 20 feet long. And then the Smithsonian has an article here, and at the end it has an editor's note that says, an earlier version of this article mistakenly stated that the human footprint was 20 inches long. The human footprints are around 5 inches long, while the sloth prints are up to 22 inches long. So I'm going to show you how devious they are with the truth. the truth is that it also goes on to say the human tracker would have had to take bigger steps in order to keep up with the sloth because they were tracking the sloth. So it means that this group of humans would have had to be going way faster than normal, unless they were bigger. Based on the mix of sizes, the party appears to have included both adults and children. I think that the children prints were 5 inches long, like the Smithsonian says. Gets away, they're not lying. The various human footprints are around 5 inches long. There's a bunch of kids' prints that are about 5 inches long. Why wouldn't they say, but the longest human footprint was this? They didn't say that. But I did a little bit of fuzzy math, and you check my math and my methods, and here's what I came up with. Let me look at my graphs. I made some graphs. I took the sloth print and said it was 22 inches. And then the length of the human print in proportion to the sloth print, which is 22 inches, it shows that the human print is a little bit over half the size of the sloth print. So if the sloth print is 22 inches, half of that is 11. Add on a bit more than 11 is like 3 plus 11 is 14. That's a big footprint. They were bigger. They were a little different. Like, I hope that the version of humans that had to live in the Ice Age, hunt mastodons, and run from little mini T-Rexes and saber-toothed tigers, I hope they were a larger, stronger, hardier version than the humans that we are today. And it's very likely that they were. But just think about how devious the Smithsonian is with the truth when it comes to giants. I mean, why wouldn't they just come out and say the largest human footprint was blank? Instead, they're going to give us the human footprints were around and then put the size of the children's footprints as an example. Like, we want to know what the largest footprints were. After you just said they were 20 inches long, we want to know what the largest ones were. But they don't give us that information. They give us the smallest ones. And it's just a small example of being very devious with the truth, and misleading. But one of the points I'm trying to make is that there seems to be a correlation between places that had a lot of mastodons and sloths, giant sloths. In the United States, a correlation with early man in those sites. And I mean early man, really early, maybe even pre-Clovis. This sloth at the museum, though, was pieced together with 2 different skeletons, incomplete skeletons of a sloth, that when they put them together, that formed a pretty complete creature. I was excited, though, that they included early man in this museum because they should. And I was really surprised to see these artifacts that were found in this area, like these arrowheads and dart points. And I found a statement very interesting that led me to do a little bit of research, which was, it says, the crescent point and the more recent Elko point. Well, how old are Elko points? Because I thought they were like Clovis old. And so I went on a little sidetrack and did some research on a few different answers, but some said 8,000 to 9,000 years old. Others said 3,500 years old. And there was one found in Oregon. It was from 5,500 BC. So it was 8,000 years old or something. I was really surprised to see that these huge, large pots, putting my finger in there for scale. These pots are very large. What really got my attention was when they started talking about the baskets and the top and the bottom, because it reminds me of the baskets that I found in the hole in my Bigfoot research hotspot. This hole that was dug by the creatures I was researching at the time, based on the prints around the hole, where I found the Kachina painting and the baskets. I do think that there could be a connection between places where there was early man also seems to be reports of Bigfoot cryptids, giants in the area, meaning they never left. They are from the same bloodline. Not on an evolutionary line of being underdeveloped humans. There were Stone Age people in Mastodon Valley. Back to that one statement about them finding dinosaur bones 64 feet below the surface. So Hemet, like most of Southern California, has an ongoing history of earthquakes. Just like this one here I found a report of that happened in either the 30s or the 40s, and it leveled all the buildings in Hemet. So I've often talked about the exquisite mud in Hemet. It is the thickest, lushest, creamiest, cushiony mud, and it's just like whipped up fudge. It's amazing mud for prints. When it dries, it hardens to a hard, solid clay until you get it wet again, and then it's mud again. And it's perfect for prints, but it's not perfect for severe earthquakes because it has the geology for liquefaction, and it is just like what it sounds like. The ground liquefies, and you have a big old mud flood. As you can see in this picture right here of Hemet, of this car in the mud. This is by one of my Bigfoot hotspots near the riverbed. This is on the road going towards the casino there 5 years ago or something. This is like small scale stuff. Like imagine on a mega level the types of geological changes that were going on back then and the size of the earthquakes. I believe that happened here when there were some dinosaurs around, because also in the area, the stones that look like prehistoric creatures drowning in a sea of mud, which is now the ground. Mastodon Valley is a pretty amazing place. There is a mound there. There are prehistoric stone creatures that look like they're swimming in a sea of mud that is hardened into earth. I found a crop circle there. I have found some strange prints there too, like this 3-toed print that is bigger than my foot. Based on this other evidence, all coming in from different sides, supporting that's what happened. Okay, now let's get to something really interesting, because this is some crazy coincidence, synchronicity. I don't know what it means. It doesn't, I don't think it really could mean anything, but the point is, what happened the day after I went to the museum? I was watering in my yard, and I found this little jaw with some teeth. I think it's a lower jaw. And okay, the reason I don't think it is new is because I just got back from the museum a day ago, and because examining it more closely, it looks just like wood. The jaw part, it doesn't look like bone, it looks exactly like wood. Can humans like turn to wood? We can turn people into diamonds. Their bones can fossilize into turquoise or malachite. And so, why not wood or stone? And I also found this, what looks to be a sloth claw. I found this in a dirt field when I was walking around in Indio with timber. This place that I haven't done a video about, it's Garnet Hill, and I go there a lot, and there's some really weird rocks there, and fossils, and early man, and petrified wood, and all kinds of stuff. I'll have to make a video about it soon, but a couple of the things I found there, one of them might be a camel tooth or camel toe, a camel foot, a hoof. The reason I saw a picture of one and then I remembered my rock, and I got my rock, and I'm going to show you, what do you think, comparing the two? And are these horse teeth that I found also up there, comparing what horse teeth look like? All right, that's it for now. Thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and thank you for liking. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, bye!